what I have heard, conversations I've had, what I know is going on, but I'm not here as a spokesperson for the Biden administration. That said, there is no question that the president-elect and the Secretary of State designate have as a first priority reestablishing our alliance with Europe. And that means a recommitment of the US-EU relationship and a recommitment of the US-NATO relationship. You all know that Joe Biden is a committed Europeanist and committed to NATO. So, John, I don't see a choice but to have strong relationships both with the European Union and with NATO, even given the complexity. But my goodness, there are issues that are much more complex than those relationships.
It is easy within the European Parliament to launch anti-American sentiments. That always has been the case, and this is also the case in this Parliament. But I think some members are waking up. They are waking up because what China has been doing for years against the European Union and against the United States, they are waking up because they see how COVID affects the United States, the European Union very negatively at the moment, and how China is taking its chance under its communist system to really take out every gain they could do out of this crisis.
I remember a meeting with TPN maybe 2 decades ago, where I raised China, and quite frankly, you all looked at me like I was crazy. And today, Europe well understands that we have to be able to compete with China. We have to be able to challenge China where we must, and we have to find the areas of cooperation. We will only be able to do what we need to do if we do it together. And so plotting out what that agenda is and how to move forward on it, I think will be absolutely crucial. Then if we try to do this apart. Now, we have some differences. We saw those around Huawei and what security is all about. We're going to have to work through that to figure out what we do and how we do it. But China is a huge issue for all of us when it comes to the economy, when it comes to who owns the technological future, when it comes to security. We all have to think through Chinese modernization of their military and what that means for all of us and for our future security. So I think that each of us will be thinking about this and are now, but we need to bring our ideas together and try to move forward together.
But Wendy, of course, it's Iran that I'd like to ask you about, because this is something which is so close, I suspect, to everything that you've been involved in, at least in the past decade. And you had huge responsibility for achieving what was a remarkable result at the time. How do you feel about this now? And how do you think that, given the recent events, that this issue can now be satisfactorily resolved?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Europe. The Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action would have disappeared completely a long time ago if it was not for Europe, for hanging together and trying to keep the deal going. So I'm immensely grateful for what European leaders did in this process. Secondly, the president-elect has said that if Iran comes back into compliance, that he wants to re-enter the JCPOA and then build on it. Most arms control agreements have a follow-on agreement. He wants to also, in parallel, work on the other issues of concern, malign behavior in the region, human rights abuses, missiles, putting Americans and Europeans in Evin prison, all of the issues. But he does believe that ensuring that Iran not obtain a nuclear weapon is priority number one. And he wants to make sure that goes back in a box. I think that when people talk about Iran, it's really as much about Iran's politics, if not more, than the rest of ours. Most of you know that Iran has a presidential election in June. I suspect the slate will be what I call the hardliners, the folks who won the parliamentary election last year and were allowed to run. They have been very tough, saying that Iran is going to move forward with its program, shouldn't re-enter the deal. There are other voices in Iran saying we must re-enter the deal. Zarif has said he's open to re-entering the deal if the US will remove the sanctions. This will really play out in Iranian politics. Iran's economy is devastated. The COVID surge is profound in Iran. So my sense is there is space to come back into the deal, but the window is very short and very narrow and very complicated. We saw this morning here in the United States an article about how, because of the bomb that went off in one of Iran's facilities, that they are building an underground facility in a mountain to assemble centrifuges. None of this is a surprise, considering what Trump has done. So again, complications, but in my view, does not foreclose diplomacy. And to begin that diplomacy, finally, begins with the United States sitting down with Europe, deciding on the best way forward. You all have fingertips about where everything is in a way that is far better than ours at the moment, because you have continued to have conversations with Iran and will do so again, I believe, on December 16th in Vienna. So consultations with Europe will be job number one.